With this series of videos, I want to discuss labor in the late 19th century. The first thing I want to go over is contrasting the differences between, say, the average American worker or a worker, say pre-Civil War, to one that had developed in the late 19th century as the second industrial revolution to cold making the U.S. a manufacturing and economic giant. Let's take a shoemaker. Let's take somebody who makes shoes as an example. Going back to colonial America, early national America, pre-Civil War America. That shoemaker often would be a skilled laborer, meaning he knew how to make the whole shoe. He could make the whole shoe. Since it was skilled labor, it was a quality product. He took time to make the shoe. Every shoe was unique. You quality over quantity. And thus, we all know time is money. And so this would be an expensive shoe. It took a long time to make. It was very detailed. Looked nice. And, wasn't made for mass production. So it was going to be an expensive shoe because, the market's not a big market. And, who knows when you're going to make another pair of shoes. Generally, a shoemaker or a cobbler worked at home. Often you'd have the shop and then you live above the shop. You were your own boss. Good working conditions, you were your own boss. You lived at home sometimes. If your cobbler shop was at your home, right? And so we see the American worker before the Civil War. Pre-industrial America or early industrial, pre-Civil War America, having control of the labor, being skilled labor. You make money on your product because you make all of it, right? And let's go to an American worker, a factory worker in the 1890s, say during the Second Industrial Revolution, and we see the foundation or the locus, if I can use a pretentious academic word. We see the locus of the worker, the shoemakers, moved from the home to the factory. You work in the factory now. You have a boss. It's not you. You don't own the company. You work for the company. You are not skilled labor anymore. Mass production has begun. Assembly line processes have begun. And so you're no longer skilled labor. You don't know how to make the whole shoe. You're just a factory worker, a cog in the machine, the assembly line machine, to mass produce shoes for the national market. Whereas before the Civil War, the cobbler, just makes shoes for his neighbors, his village, his town he lives in. You're not selling your shoes very far away. Here we see in the late 19th century, you are mass producing for a national economy. You're unskilled. Quantity is more important than quality. So these aren't going to be nice shoes or fancy shoes. Every shoe is going to look the same. It's not going to be expensive. These shoes are going to be cheap. They're mass produced. They go out to a wide market. You're selling to a lot of people. So demand is high, supply is high, so you're going to have lower prices or cheap products. Your working conditions are often not what you would expect. You're not at home. When we say poor working conditions, what are we comparing that to? Usually we compare it to early 21st century considerations or thoughts on what proper working conditions are. And without going over a long list, usually what covers it is, what is working like in the 19th century. The work week is 60 hours a week, 12 I'm sorry, 10 6-hour days, 60 hours a week. So generally, if you're a working class individual, you have Sunday off. And usually what covers it, if I just say everything you expect as a early 21st century employee didn't exist in the 19th century, and that pretty much covers that.